Hi everyone, it's me, Satya, coming back to you from the Goddess Touch Wellness Center. And I just got done recording my feminine conditioning part of the Masculine Feminine series, and I just was in the mood to talk a little bit more tonight. And the first thing that popped in my head was the topic of relaxation. I've been thinking about that a lot lately, so I wanted to go into that with you and explore. Yeah, relaxation. Um, as a yoga teacher, I find I'm just connecting more and more with what that means, and finding, you know, resistance to it from students unintentionally, but I see the resistance to it kind of all around, especially when students are asked to lay completely still at the end of every practice, every class, in what we call shavasana. I notice the ones who can't just lay there still and can't let go. Their mind seems to be busy, their bodies are busy, and silence is just really difficult for them. I had a few extreme cases. You know, most are not like this. Most, by the end of a strenuous class, are happy to just like do nothing and totally relax. But I just find it interesting when, I see people who have a harder time. And in some extreme cases of like, one woman couldn't, she kind of gets up like halfway through and sits right up into a seated position, whereas I'm like, everyone's still in shavasana, and I'm slowly telling them to bring movement back into their hands and feet, and she's already wide awake in her seated position. So it's just kind of a contrast there, and it kind of just exemplifies what I mean by having a hard time relaxing. So I guess it just makes me sad when I see that, because I realize the gifts that relaxation brings. And I feel that we miss out on those gifts when we deny ourselves, that time and space to just let go and to surrender. I think it's the feminine essence. So it kind of ties in with our masculine feminine stuff a lot, but we can link it together later. Right now I'm just kind of talking about it, just talking. But I think so. So I think that there's this like underlying anxiety about being completely in silence or not doing anything for too long in the culture, because it almost implies that we are being lazy, and that, I don't know, it's like so weird that our worth and everything, and our sense of who we are is all built around our accomplishments and not around kind of our nature and being and just being in ourselves and enjoying that with each other and connecting. Seems to be, with the masculine conditioning, that it's rubbed off on all of us that it's not okay to relax. And it just really bothers me. I don't know. It bothers me because I don't like having this anxiety in my body. I feel it's natural for the body to be relaxed in whatever you're doing. Just like a kid or child can have so many experiences in one day. Just if you look at a day in the life of a child, you will see that they, could have run around the neighborhood. They could have climbed a few trees. They could have built some sand castles. They could have played house, or built forts. And this is all in one day, right? Played teacher. Whatever. I'm thinking of the things that I used to do as a kid, and I could literally do all those activities in like a couple hours after school, And so I was doing a lot, but I was doing it all out from a state of relaxation. None of it was born out of anxiety, that I had to be doing it. None of it was born out of a place of fear, that I had to meet some expectation, that I had to be someone, that I had to collect this resume of accomplishments, right? So it was just creative. It was just I was in the moment in all those moments. Like I was able to be completely absorbed and lost in the moments, and just um, wrapped in the love and light of life. And uh, so much creativity was born from that. So much. I don't know. I feel sometimes like I was wiser then because I was in the moment. And I think you can only really be wise when you are present in the moment and relaxed, because you're then open to the wisdom that only that moment could provide, the truth of that moment. Like when someone's talking to you, and if you're not there, like here, if you're not present with them, you probably won't. You'll be off in your timing as to your response, and on some level, that person can feel that unless they're too self-absorbed in their head and not there to realize that they're just talking to themselves, which can definitely happen too. But the more present two people are, the more connectivity and flow there is in the conversation, and the more actual wisdom of the moment can be born. I think you're smarter that way when you're relaxed and you slow down. You're smarter. You have more creativity available to you, and this has actually been proven in neuroscience. Studies of the brain are now absolutely proving this, that when we're not stressed, we are more intelligent and more creative and insightful. And I think it just makes sense if you really think about it. If you think about the times when you're the most relaxed, you probably totally relate to that fact that you were able to come up with creative solutions, maybe to something that you were stuck in. Like you can be sitting there staring at a problem in front of you for a while, like say you're at work and there's some difficulty you're having, but if you step away from it for a little while and get your mind off of it and do something fun and outside of it, then you might have noticed sometimes that when you come back, you see it with fresh eyes and you don't feel so exhausted by it anymore. There's more creativity available to you. So I think there's great value in cultivating a relaxed mind, and to not letting the rush of the culture get to you, or drive you mad, just because others around you are kind of in that madness. Like if you think about when you're on a first date or something with someone you really like, and we all have had the experience of, I'm sure, of being really, nervous and saying stupid things, or saying, what's it, kind of like what I'm doing right now, but for different reasons, where we just kind of mess up our words and we go blank and or stutter, or, I'm sure we've all had those experiences, just with anyone who makes you nervous, or if it's an authority figure and you're like a teacher who scares you, or you're pulled over by the police. Suddenly, because we're nervous and we're in that place of stress, we're not very creative, or not very quick on our feet, and not very brilliant or witty at all, because that stress is running through, right? So I feel like, that's a given, and like we can all relate to those experiences, and yet we live in a culture that's always like pushing us and creating stress in us, to be more productive. Like there's like almost like a unspoken whip behind each of us to keep being more productive. And it just doesn't make sense to me that we don't stop and ask, why would we think that allowing the whip to keep whipping us would make us more productive. Um, why would we continue playing this game that's like counterintuitive? Like, we would let ourselves be taken out of the wisdom of the moment by others who want us to work harder and better and whatever for their own ends, instead of realizing that that makes us actually far less productive, and it takes us out of our essence and out of our creativity and out of ourselves. It's like we have to detach from part of ourselves when we do that, and we pay a really big price every time we do that. Every time we let the stress run through our body and we let ourselves be whipped in some way by whoever it may be, and often an authority figure, often a boss at work, maybe even cars in traffic that have that same sense of domination, like as they tailgate you or whatever it is. Just like, I think some people do the rushing, they do the whipping, and then to get their sense of power, and some people do the getting whipped game, like they playing the victim game of like, if someone's whipping you behind, you don't, instead of turning around and being like, hey, what, you mind, like this is my space, back up. Instead of like, oh, I'm sorry, I'll work harder, I'll drive faster, I'm in your way, I don't deserve to breathe or take up space. So it's like, they're playing opposite sides of the same game. And I think we all, to some extent, take part in those, both of those roles. And especially the one of being whipped, like as the people, as most of us have jobs where we have the superiors, at the very top is someone making huge profits from our hours of labor. And above that, the government making huge profits. And I could go into that much more too, but going into huge profits from our labor, and there's higher than that too, of people who would take advantage, and just have us be worker bees if we let them. But I think I'd like for us to stop and ask the question, what good is this doing for me to rush myself through life and to not, be slow down enough to enjoy it and be in tune with the rhythms of my body and to ask what my body's needing in this moment and to ask what the moment's needing of me. Who's in front of me right now that I'm ignoring because I'm thinking about paying the bills next month, or, who am I not giving my heart to and not being present because I'm wrapped up in some past or future problem that's not here right now. So just kind of asking ourselves, is that worth it? And I know, this is a hard one for me because, and I've been thinking a lot about this, is that fear, that worry about paying the bills and about, having to go to work every day, often to jobs that we don't either don't love or don't like or even hate sometimes. It's a hard one because I know, we all face that cultural challenge of, we have the real bills to pay, we have the real structure that we must kind of follow, depending on how brave you are, because some people are pioneers and they pave their own way and are successful at that. But that's taking a risk. It's definitely, it is definitely taking a risk. And so I understand the struggle on both sides, but I've just been thinking about the role of work in our lives and relaxation. And I feel that work can be a huge source of our stress and the reason that we're taken out of that natural state of relaxation, and the reason why we divorce from our bodies and from our just natural processes, because work is almost like that situation of like there's a silent whip behind you, like saying, work harder, that's not fast enough, that's not productive enough. And how often do you have like corporate jobs that have like a stack of work this high that the deadline's coming up and your work's just always piling and piling, and your superiors seem to have no clue about time management and the actual reality of how long it takes for you to do your work. I've just heard that in so many cases. I didn't stay in that world for very long, but I remember when I did that and just how ridiculous the workload was, because no one was considered the fact of how long something would take before adding something else to your pile. And it's just really it's a huge, I think, crime against ourselves to live this way. Like, no wonder we get sick, we get diseases, is because we're so divorced from that intelligence of our body, that wants to put one foot in front of the other and come from a more relaxed, creative space, like a child. I don't know what it would look like. I do know some adults who live much more in the moment and are much more free spirits. And, there's a responsibility that they've cultivated that might be different than childhood, but there's that lightness and there's that playfulness and presence when you're talking to them. And I like to think of myself as that way as much as I can be. I know not always, but yeah, I try to cultivate that. But it's, yeah, I don't know. It's something I think we need to see a lot more of in the world. I'm just thinking, people listening to this might be thinking, well, we have to grow out of childhood at some point, and that's, all the things you're talking about are the realities of being an adult. But I don't feel that way. I feel this is like a story that we've created. This is a reality that's, kind of in our minds. This whole, like, you have to work 9 to 5, 8 hours a day is a story that we created. Like, who said, who said that's how we should be living as human beings on this earth? Like, does that make sense, that we're inside 4 walls when there's beautiful nature outside and air that we're meant to be breathing, and sun we're meant to be absorbing through our skin, and earth we're meant to be touching with our feet? All these elements, we were put on this earth in these bodies for a reason, and these bodies are made of the earth, and they need the nutrients coming from all those sources, right? And when we're in 4 walls, not breathing natural air, we're breathing stagnant air, and we're getting also hit with all this EMF, electromagnetic frequency pollution from the computers, and especially in big offices, we get so much of that. Who said that that's the way that life should be for us? And why don't we question that reality more? Why don't we look around and say, like, is this really how, God or our higher power, our higher selves intended for us to live? So I don't know, I have a really big qualm with that lifestyle. And I don't like that we keep buying into it as a collective. Because I think if more of us start asking questions about it and being like, hey, like, wait a minute, whoever came up with this idea in the first place, and let's scratch that. Let's go back to the drawing board and see what makes more sense. Thinking about our natures, keeping our natures in mind, and drawing up then a way for us to contribute our gifts to the world. And to thrive, right? Because I'm not saying, let's all just like be hungry and have tons of fun, but give no contribution to society. But I'm actually saying the opposite. I'm saying, if we're relaxed and creative, if we're relaxed and feeling abundant and not feeling worried about the bills and things, then I think our natural state is more one of love and creativity. And we would work from a place, it wouldn't feel like work, but we would come from a place of passion. And I feel then we're actually giving our true gift to humanity. Like, when we tap into whatever that passion is, whatever lights our fire, well, first we're given fire, right? We're given natural fuel to accomplish whatever that is, and to make art out of it, whatever it is. Like, the farmer or the seamstress or the berry picker, I don't know, the artist who paints, whatever, whatever it is that the person's doing, it will be done with art. It would be done in such a beautiful way, because that's the offering of their heart. That's what they were put here to do, you know? And we wouldn't go hungry, because there's a lot of people that have a passion for food and gardening, and maybe it should be a passion of all of ours to contribute a little bit to gardening each day, as food's like a basic need, but it wouldn't take. I just feel our needs are really simple, and we really complicate them, and we spend 8 hours a day in jobs really complicating our needs, to buy things that we don't need and to support companies that we don't necessarily need. And I think all of it would be what would be great, I guess, if we were all in slots in that whole orchestra that we love to be in. That would be a whole different story, because then the wheels would be turning, the world would go round with us all doing our passions, and with energy, natural energy flowing to do so, and none of us would be going negative energetically. We wouldn't be draining our energy reserves to do things we didn't love to do, to supply companies with kind of worker bees turning out products that we don't need, products that are born from almost, I don't want to say slave labor, but this kind of worker bee energy. This tired, like, I don't want to be here. When is the day going to be over? Kind of energy, And so, for me, I'd rather not have that product. I can definitely do without all the thousands of products that we have, if I can give people back their time and energy. Sorry, I get on rants, but yeah. So I've just been thinking about relaxation and passion, and then the way that we actually are living in the world right now. And I think there's definitely a big gap to bridge that I would love to see bridged. I would love to see us more relaxed and more flowing with each other, not rushing one another, because then we take each other from our natural, kind, loving states. And when we feel that stress, we often get short-tempered, and we lash out, and we continue the cycle of this static among each other rather than this harmony. If we were, more giving of our, just more allowing space to others, not rushing them along. I guess I'm thinking a lot about traffic right now, because that, those dynamics really play out there. I feel like sometimes I want to be relaxed on the road. I don't want to be rushing from one point to the other, because that's a stressful place to be. And then I can even be in the slow lane, and then these jerks will come up on my tail, and they won't leave. They have all the space to go around, but they won't stop harassing me, because I think they get a high out of that or something. But it's so I can't stand that about being on the road. And I try my best to stay in my loving, centered space and listening. I've been listening to reggae music lately on the road to get me in that place. And I just started, and I think that's going to help. But to picture myself in an island or something, just escaping this mentality that we always have to be in the next place, and treating each other like they're in our way, and we want to just get past them as fast as we can. So I don't know. Anyway, those are just some thoughts that I had, and I hope you consider them. We're all living in this world together, and it would be nice if we could help each other to relax in it, and know that we're actually smarter and wiser and more creative when we're coming from that space, than when we're coming from being rushed and stressed. And also to maybe consider what your true passion is and your gift to the world, instead of continuing to contribute your have to tired worker bee energy to the world, which I know you're giving what you can, and you're feeling the stress to pay your bills, and totally understandable. My family's going through that, so I get it, But maybe asking the question, is there another option? Is there, can I look to find something closer to my passion in the world, so that I might be working just as hard, but the fuel to do it will come much more easily because it's something I love, you know. And I think there's a reason why we have these desires in our hearts, because that's what we're meant to be doing, and that's what the universe will give us fuel to do if we follow it. So, and just some food for thought today, and hope it was inspiring to you. And I wish you a beautiful rest of your afternoon. Namaste.